Welcome, everyone. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and it's a great privilege and pleasure to be here with our colleague and friend, Venus contactee, Robert Potter, in number 2 in the series from the statement and communication from the Venus hierarchy of light that came through at the Mount Shasta annual conference with the Venusians. Robert, welcome. Now, in part 1, oh, I'm sorry. I said welcome, and I cut you off.
Thank you, Alfred, for having me on. And as I mentioned the last time, you're one of the few people who take my information as I state it. And a lot of people have problems. The fact that I've met extraterrestrials that look like us, and I've spoken with them, and they have taken me under their wing with the help of Raymond Keller. So I want to thank you for allowing me to share this message. And today, this message is going to address some important information for us to understand and for us to digest and process. And this is not a fear-based message. This is not a doom and gloom-based message. This is simply a reality of something moving forward. Go ahead.
Exactly. I just want to be very, very brief. Summarizing this series in part number 1, which, if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend that you see it because it is deeply inspirational. And I think that from a vibration and ascension point of view and Earth evolution point of view, it's very important. We touched on the role of Jesus as creator God of this local universe and his Venus connection with Valiant Thor, who has a continuing connection with Earth, and there Robert read a special message that Valiant Thor delivered through audio at the Venus conference at Mount Shasta this past 2022 summer. And then that led up to a larger explanation of the relationship with Dr. Frank Strange's. Now, we'll be shifting, as we said, in this segment to some profound messages that the Venus hierarchy of light are bringing about of our planet Earth, which is situated in a solar system and which has a long history. And so I'm going to turn this over to you because you'll be able to speak with some precision and bring this message. Some of the words that are used are words that I haven't heard for a long time. The word the E word, in other words, evacuation. And I really want to learn more about this, about Earth changes. My first book, just to share why I am really so much here, my first book in this area, Robert, was written in 1973, right after my extraterrestrial abduction, and it was published worldwide. It was called The Age of Cataclysm, and it gave the scientific foundation for an axis shift of the Earth. So I've been writing about, and that's the first of 10 books, I've been writing about this area and for 50 years. And that was a predicted event. And we're now coming up to the time frame of the areas that I started writing about 50 years ago. And so you can imagine how much I am here supporting your insights and your work, and how much I was, like I said, oh my gosh, when you made that public, I said, this is just amazing. So without further ado, Robert Potter, Venus contactee, extraordinary. I urge you, everyone listening, to support this, both in your hearts, also to support this materially. This is very important at this time, that this information, which is out of the box, be supported from a material point of view. So, Robert, over to you.
I do talk a lot sometimes, so I'm gonna try to make some pose. If you have a question, just raise your hand and we can get to it right there. But I want to thank you, and I hope that this will vindicate a certain amount of what's going on. And one of the important things is that we realize that our thoughts and what we think about create our reality individually, and it's how emotionally invested and over time and how much we visualize and make things happen. So in our work, we have to reveal to many people the dark side. And it's important that we don't obsess on the dark side. The Venusians have told me when I was asking them, it's not looking good, and why aren't you doing more, and all these things in my dialogues over the last 5 years with them, through the esteemed chosen postman, Raymond Keller, and I become a postman of sorts too. He's a postmaster general as far as I'm concerned, and I'm a delivery guy. So don't focus on me as a person. I'm delivering a message, and I'm to deliver this faithfully and to not respond to people's reactions. So it's important that we don't obsess on the darkness. They said, you don't complain in the darkness, you light a candle. And they said, we have it well under control. And from my understanding, and this will be in the next one when we talk about the Global Restoration Plan and Kim Gogan's role, which again is going to be very controversial. I think that it's important. And I want to make clear, I've asked the Venusians, I asked them questions, and sometimes repeatedly, they have refused to comment on Kim Gogan. And they just have simply said that there's a lot of egos going around. We're not going to comment at all. So this is left to us to understand what's taking place. So what I'd like to do now is I want to read the messages themselves directly from Alon, the relevant messages, and so that we can understand exactly what they said, because I want to be clear with what they say. And a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about are based on my own speculation of pondering on this. I didn't release this for 70 days. At the conference, I didn't read the whole message. I did Valiant Thor. I talked about it, but I didn't read the whole message. So this, you recognize when I sent this to you that this is very important. And they look like us. They're our closest guardian planet. They've been involved here for thousands and thousands of years guarding the planet. They left a fourth dimensional remnant as the planet primarily ascended to the fifth dimension, but it was seen that the fourth dimension could be a way station for ascending souls from Earth and Venusian who incarnate on Earth to interact more directly with the human population on a physical level in their guardian position. And they've come here, as we mentioned last time, primarily at the advent of nuclear power, where we reached a level of destruction. Of course, they've been battling the dark force, the artificial intelligence, transhumanist agenda of fallen beings from higher dimensions who have had influence here. And now we have actually our local cluster of galaxies. Eight galaxies are involved in cleaning up the operation here and in the Andromeda galaxy of an artificial intelligence that was reaching out through fallen beings to influence and to bring in a dark essence, let's just call it that, which we could look at as the goo or the graphene, the electromagnetically influenced nanobots and things like this. So let's not focus on that. Let's be aware of it. Let's understand where it comes from the chemtrails and various things like this. And we have to protect ourselves, and we have to have faith moving forward. So some of this is going to be sound doom and gloomy, but I want you to recognize that when I look at surfing, and I may have used this last time, I'm using it a lot, because when I used to surf the big waves in Hawaii and Pipeline and even in my hometown where the waves would get big, when you're down in the trough and the big waves coming, you can't see behind. And sometimes in Hawaii, the reef jumps are very big. So, a wave can be breaking in here, and then 30 yards out, the next reef, if the wave is big enough, it will break there. And when they start building, you have to know. So you look back, and the people on the beach are standing up and holding a peace sign, which means number two, scramble, get out beyond it, try to move out of the impact zone. So in a sense, what I'm sharing here is a message, and I'm going to get straight to it, and I'll just read it directly. So there's a guy, and I'll show you real quick here. Am I sharing the whole screen here? Can you see it?
I can see you. But
yes, let me go ahead
you'd
and
have to go to screen share. You can just go to screen share.
Yeah, I thought I did that. Okay, is that on now or no? Can you see the whole screen?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. So now I'm going to share with you. I have a YouTube channel. If you go to the bottom of my, I think it's on every page, but if you go to the bottom of my blog down here, there's a YouTube channel. And so what you want to do is you want to go to my YouTube channel, and let's see, here it is. So these are some of my YouTube channels, and I've done some other interviews that are going to be similar to this one previously. So this is one that's important, that I talk with Raymond and about the possibilities of the 3 different influences that were coming on my radar recently. And then I discussed with David Wallace, a contactee from the Aldebaran system. And he's had a very accelerated level of contact from 2017. And he's allowed to take pictures on board the ship, and he's meeting many different beings. They're materializing and coming down into his house and meeting him in the courtyard. And there was a being in there. So it's important that you might want to listen to these, a little more scientific explanation, but I'm going to go right into the message here. So, and I'll stick to their messages and let people read some of this stuff. So I mentioned David Wallace because he had a contact, and they told him that a 5th dimensional flash or solar flash, which is going to uplift and awaken humanity, is coming soon. And, he was thinking that people are going to the 5th dimension. And, I have explained many times that the Venusians have said, no, you have a lot to learn of the 3rd. Individually, anyone can ascend anytime, not just to the 5th dimension, but even higher. And this is an individual process, but the planet is going to go through some changes here. So I was asking him, because this message said that the long-awaited open public contact may come at the time of what Cobra calls the event, the solar flash. I take a lot of information, and even though it seems counter, I can bring it in. A lot of people are triggered by Cobra. I know Cobra has had real contact with Pleiadians. I know he's been to the moon. I know he's been inside the Earth. And I know he does work with military intelligence. Does he have the whole picture? No. Do I? Probably not. I mean, we have to go with what we think and understand. So I can reconcile a lot of differences from a lot of different people because I have a very long-standing thing. So David said soon for them could be 8 years away. He said, yes, David is correct in his assessment, because I was talking about in the question about the possible changes coming from a solar flare and things of this nature. So he said, and I talked about David's prognostication that when this flash occurs, they're going to come in mass and they're going to use that flash to remove non-human parasitic entities that are inside people. I'm sorry, but some people have been taken over, like the Queen of England was sitting in stasis between the astral and the mental plane, and there was a non-human, you know, for those people who are going to have problems, a demon, for lack of a better term. Brother Robert, David's correct in his assessment following the passing. And this is the first time I heard this. I'd heard about this, and Raymond had talked about it, but here we hear it straight from Alon. Following the passing of a near-Earth asteroid in 7 years, and followed by in a similar event 2 years later, physical conditions on the Earth will continue to deteriorate with an intensity of earthquakes and significantly changing weather patterns brought on by humankind's abuse of the natural environment. Additionally, the sun will continue to heat up, and hence your planet. There will be a dramatic increase in mass coronal ejections, which will also create havoc with your electrical grids and communication systems. And I made the comment, it's important that you read that and digest it. I'm going to follow through with what he says here again. As Dr. Frank warned the masses in 1972, the time would come when a cloud of hydrogen gas with temperatures hotter than 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit would begin a passage through our solar system, entering the realm of planets at a 60-degree angle to the plane of the ecliptic. David speculated that this hydrogen cloud could be radioactive. That's a speculation. This cloud is already here and will not leave our solar system for some 100 years. The sun is interacting with this cloud on many electromagnetic levels, igniting it and setting off changes on all planets. Earth changes and resulting instabilities will continue into the 2060s, when the largest residual mass of the hydrogen cloud clears the Earth's orbit. Then you can expect a new social and economic stabilization will emerge in North America and Europe. Its influence is projected to slowly extend around the globe into the 2120s, by which time the cloud will have also left the solar system. So that's a big one to ponder. Now, with that information, if you'd like to, what I've been thinking, we're talking about on many electromagnetic levels when we do this. When I told this to David, he's not an astrophysicist, but he thought, a hydrogen cloud couldn't do that at all and all. And I said, well, I'm going to take the Venusian science over any Earth-based science. And I gave him the name of the scientist that observed this, perhaps with the help of the Venusians, but Dr. Frank in 1972, that's 60 years ago. 72, that would be 82, 92, 2002, 2012, 50 years ago. So he had said it's going to get hot. So what's happening, folks, and you look out at the farthest planet, Pluto, it's now brown. It doesn't have its polar caps. So the entire solar system is heating to 10,000 degrees. So it's important that we understand that our destruction of the ionosphere, and the primary source, cars are definitely part of it, the pollution, but I would say the chemtrails with the heavy metals in the upper atmosphere and the radiation that we have on our planet, which is tremendous, has broken down the various, the mesosphere, the troposphere. I mean, I'm sure that there's so much evidence here that's being hidden from us to a certain extent of the degradation. But nuclear power is number one. One rocket ship going into outer space, that's causing, that's probably a week's worth of destruction to the ionosphere compared to gas cars. Now, gas cars, we could have water cars. We don't even need this technology. Everyone's going, oh, we can go solar with lithium. It's a joke. they have the other technology. We can move forward through this in a much stronger and powerful way if but the criminals can be recognized, arrested, and if humanity can ignore those directives. Right now is never a better time for us to change the situation. So with this information that we just read, that you've already read about the 100 years, the solar magnetic cloud and the heating up, and when a solar flare comes, the exasperation of the solar flare. The solar flare is a natural occurrence every 1,000 years. They pump up. But with the sun heating up and sending more heat out, it's not just a heat wave now, it's supercharged by the hydrogen cloud, which may be radioactive. The area between the planets is normally absolute zero in space, but now it's 10,000 degrees. So you have a mass coronal ejection hitting a degraded, mesosphere, troposphere, ionosphere, and in the regular atmosphere and probably leaking above, we've been spraying, graphene, a metal, a smart dust that is carrying aluminum and so many other, the guys that did the research on it, on geoengineering, combined with the long-term other pollutants that have degraded our atmosphere. It's not just solar warming, it is a perfect storm and a confluence of mankind's abuse of nature, the deep state's extreme, insane desire for control of chemtrails, and of course, the two natural events. And we'll talk about the asteroid later, but would you like to talk about the confluence of these things and how they're going to be affecting us?
Sure. I think that all of that is very important, please.
Okay, well, I guess, okay, so obviously, when the Earth is rotating and a solar flare comes, if our side of the Earth is facing when that flare occurs and hits the Earth, and it may occur for half a day. I don't know how long solar flares last, how long the primary pulse is, but if it's a big one and it's a lot of it on the other side probably would not be as much affected. However, I don't know. But I am guessing, and I've talked to a secret space program guy that put together the spaceships, and he would always call me from like a library computer with a VPN, and I don't know how he did it, but he says he's retired. I don't know, but he showed me he had built a bus-sized UFO in the back of his yard, and it flew around the Earth 9 times or 9 times in like 5 seconds. So, and then he dismantled it. This is what he claimed, but he has the technology and the images and everything to kind of show evidence. And he said that an EMP that could come from the sun or from Earth-based technology, which is garnered from the extraterrestrial. There's an EMP, an ELP, and an EMF. There's an electromagnetic laser pulse, and EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. And this is a natural occurrence, ladies and gentlemen. This is not all man-made, that would take out and cause a Carrington event that happened in the late 1800s there, when the electrical, all the Morse code wire lines went down. They weren't functioning. So I don't know if they had to replace the wires or what the situation was there. I didn't really research it that much, but this was an X-class solar flare. And a taste of that may be coming in that certain areas of the planet, not everyone, not everywhere, all at once, but depending on probably the state of the art of electronics, and maybe even the old technology might even be more resilient. I don't know, but we're going to see electrical grid systems going down. not everywhere, in some places. I feel they have said this. Raymond had clarified that some electrical grids, this is not to be made in fear. Oh my God, I'm going to start digging holes and burying a prepper. But I think to a certain extent, we might want to prepare for that type of activity. In other words, yes, storing food and becoming self-sufficient on a local level. Because if electricity goes down, that's going to affect a lot of gas stations. It'd have to be siphoning and pumping by hand, and all these kind of things are possibilities in certain areas. The other thing is, of course, satellites. Some satellites could be frying. David, from some of his contacts in the NASA, has indicated that they're doing some super viruses up there that are supposedly becoming resistant, but they may be leaving the space stations due to this incredible heat and the electromagnetic things that may be happening. It may be affecting the secret space program, and on a certain level, I hope it affects the neural link of Elon Musk trying to link people to electronic system. But so we have possible electrical grids coming down. We do see possible satellites, not everyone, everywhere at the all time. I don't know. We may see a larger event that may affect more drastically. It could cause electrical outages in planes. This could cause some mass planes falling at some point, at which case I think they would stop putting planes up until they got a handle of what the conditions were around that. When I asked the space program guy, I said, well, if my car is not running and the EMP comes, he says, well, he said he thinks it's going to pretty much fry everything internally. And so I said, what about if I line the car in lead? And he said, your best bet is to get a cheap car. And so now I'm going to, and David turned me on to this website. This is called suspiciousobservers.org. And this guy goes into, they have a ranch, and they're creating an alternative community, not based on fear, but they're going into explaining stuff. And here's a disaster vehicle, which is like a 1980 car that's real simple. I think you got a solenoid, you got an alternator, and whatever. So I don't really know about that and what's going on, but I can imagine that of the various things that could take place. Now, instead of, and I want to emphasize this to people, instead of focusing on fear, I'm focusing on this as an opportunity for the people that are awake and aware to start to, in their local communities. And a lot of this is what I did with Prepare for Change. We were talking about the event and what might occur. And the event in terms of Cobra was a solar flare that would initiate the military to make the positive military and the extraterrestrials to make moves to remove certain elements that are not of the earth and hostile to us. So we have to handle the earth-based people that are really humans, that are just lost in materialism, greed, and corruption, maybe pedophiles who've been bought and sold and promoting this agenda of the destruction of the planet. It's a false Armageddon, a false apocalypse. The word apocalypse means revelation. So I don't want people to, oh my God, he's doom and gloom. I don't want you to focus on this. I want you to see this as an opportunity to recognize here, as we move forward into our new age where everything's good, to look at the broader perspective of the natural changes that may be affecting our limited electrical system. And most likely Tesla's system wouldn't even be affected. But that's never been allowed because those forces need the money, and they engineered the taking down of Tesla's wireless energy system, because JP Morgan said, well, how do we charge for it? He goes, well, you sell an antenna and it's there. these towers, it would radiate free wireless, not like 5G or 7G, just a free energy. Well, we can't have that. You know, of course, that family was already hybridized and not part of the human race. So then you had the Rockefellers with the gasoline. Henry Ford made an engine, and I know because Fred Bell was 8 years old, and Henry Ford used to bounce him on his lap, and he was working with Bob McCulloch and Bob Johnson of McCulloch Engines and Johnson Engines, because Fred Bell's father invented the alternator and the automatic transmission for Henry Ford. So Fred grew up from a genius family. His great uncle invented the telephone. That's why he worked at NASA, and he was a whistleblower there and in the military. And they asked him to work on Star Wars. Reagan, Alan Holt, who built the lunar liftoff engine, said, "Fred, we need you. We're doing some laser stuff in outer space." He said, "Nah, no thanks. Not going to be involved in Star Wars." So I do have inside knowledge that what they did is they, and other people know this, because Henry Ford was promoting ethanol, which they run on in Brazil very easily, with hemp. Hemp is an easily renewable source. It's the cleanest burning fuel oil besides whale oil, and it doesn't pollute the hydrocarbons. It's like a more natural substance. We can have hemp cars right now, but no, they bought up all the electrical cars in Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Dodgers is from Edison's electricity. You'd get a shock if you got too close to the cars when they were running on electricity. And the same thing in LA. They wanted everyone back in cars, guzzling gas and feeding the Rockefeller Bank. Exxon and Shell are owned by the Queen of England. So these people have plenty of money, but they continue to want more. So by understanding how they manipulate us, we can go around this and find the real solutions. And I'm not saying solar panels aren't bad on a local level for a house, but really we could have a shoebox that could run an entire block of electromagnetic energy safely. However, there's criminal activity involved, and most of the people don't know. The enforcers that come and rip a person who's running a water car out of his home, and they take his stuff. If he does it again, they end up dead. So there is a silence group. They're very real, and they're very intent when you threaten their money forms. So they got Randolph Hearst to create a fear around marijuana. So black guys are raping women, and they're chewing on glass, and the kids are going crazy from marijuana. So we have to outlaw marijuana. All the paper in the books was made from hemp until then. Then you look at the books from the 1940s, guess where they got the paper from? By cutting down the old growth redwoods with Randolph Hearst owned. You look at your books from the 40s, and the paper is all brittle and brown. You go back to the 30s, you still have this beautiful, vellum type paper. So this is how they manipulate. The gas crisis in the 70s was manipulated. They had Nigeria raise the price of oil. They blamed it on OPEC. Well, America's part of OPEC. They were leading the charge and said, "We'll pay it. Go ahead, raise the price. All we ask is that you invest the money in America." Then they screwed them in 1989 when the stock crashed. So it's just lie after lie. So we have to recognize that they're not going to tell us what's going on. Although they know about the heating up of the solar system, they understand this, but they're just planning to go down and ride out the solar flares with their in their bunkers. So we're responsible for ourselves. No help is going to come from them. The bureaucrats that are following the agendas don't realize the agendas are coming from a very negative source that hates mankind, that was cast down here and has set up a program of destruction. The changing of the guard has taken place, Alfred. So you must have some questions here.
Yeah. No, well, what role do the Venusians have in all of this on Earth? What is their specific role? if their role is to inform us and warn us, that's fine, but how do you see their role? Because they did come down to your conference and, so we've now initiated this.
They come. I have, I have my suspicions who was a Venusian or who wasn't at my conference, but Raymond doesn't do that. They would come at Dr. Frank's meetings in Las Vegas, and I mentioned to him, and when Jill came in, the blonde, I'm the only person that recognized, and he just smiled. Like I said, we had a visitor here today. He just smiled. And when I was inducted into the Order of Melchizedek, also there was a being named Uniah that came, and so he confirmed these things afterwards. But their role is not to be present and to say, "I'm a Venusian." Everything is not about spaceships and spacesuits. This is about positively orienting mankind towards a message of love, patience, kindness, and compassion. The beehive, they model their society based on the bees and the spirit of cooperation. They have a matriarchal society, so they have a queen, but it's not based on genetics. It's based on lifetimes of service to Earth and to Venus in their position. And it's a different world, and they're not interested in interfering with us economically or militarily, although they obviously have positions and advisors clandestinely in areas of high finance and in military. I know that they've got people in military intelligence at all times, and they also have technology. They can look through walls of any and lead and everything else, and they can look in and see exactly what's taking place anywhere. Their numbers, the planet has about 5 or maybe 6 million people, and they're pretty much, most of them are very much involved in manning the satellites, the moons, the asteroids of communication and observation around the solar system. And they act as a primary educator to the multidimensional races that are coming here on a physical level and influencing. They spend time aboard the Venusian starships. If they're coming down to Earth, you got to spend a month on the starship, where they have all the records and the psychology and the understanding and the history of the Earth. You come here from the Pleiades on a mission to help the Earth that's in trouble. If you're going to come down and boots on the ground, you got to go through the protocols of rules of engagement or contact with the humans. And they have to, almost all of them have to remain behind the scenes. They are coming forward to their own representatives of star seeds that have come here. And that's how the various races do interplanetary cultural exchange, is they actually run a series of incarnations on another world. That's from the higher dimensions. So the universe is grand, the divine plan is grand, and the interactions of the Venusians is always benevolent. They can materialize in your room physically, be completely covered, and be telepathically sending you good vibes. Or they, they have my brain waves, they've taken my DNA, and they can put a tensor beam, which is a laser beam of information, so it's not interfered by any government. It's a very short, from a invisible ship, they can put something on me and telepathically communicate. And I feel at certain times, I say, I make the request, I'm going to be focusing on my writing here. Can you please help me? And I get a little bit of help there. So again, I want to emphasize this is an opportunity. I have a nonprofit now, and I'm going to be announcing, we're looking for people, and I would put any money in under lock and key, but I'd like to create, Louis Martens said they would like to have what's called an external retreat, which is of the interior government, which would be kind of in communication with the inner earth and the extraterrestrials, to build a location that could be disseminating information. The idea would be to create a library and a large meeting hall on a property here in Mount Shasta, you know, probably with a large garage because it snows, and a workshop and building, and to bring in experts in construction, and to create an infrastructure of a small community that maybe could have some RV hookups on site, and possibly some rooms for healing centers and smaller retreats. And you know, the ideas are there to make it self-sustainable, to have a garden and all that stuff. And I recommend this to be taking place all over the planet, for individuals now to start to get their money together. And when I want to create a community and all thing, everyone wants that, but the egos are too strong. You got the people who put in the money and they want to control and lord over it. Well, guess what? Money probably may not be around much longer in the form that you think. All the toys and all that stuff in certain areas may become obsolete. So without saying everywhere all at once all the time, but there's different things. So I'll talk about the magnetic flip. Okay, so we have the magnetic flip of the poles, magnetic, where it's moving now, it's rotating. We still have the North Pole, we're still oriented towards the North Star, but it's moving the thing. Now that magnetic flip may have taken place in the past. We wouldn't have been able to know or register it. It may have caused, you know, the birds and animals to be disoriented for a time until it stabilized. They said they're not worried about that. The axial flip that you talked about is a natural occurrence that takes place every 5,000 years. I mentioned this in the last talk. So they say it's 400 to 500 years away, but it's coming. That will cause a 5,000-foot tsunami when it occurs, and it does wipe out a lot of the surface area. And when that does occur, Atlantis will rise from the Pacific and or from the Atlantic, and Lemuria would rise from the thing, and the Earth is going to go through some changes. Exactly when that is, I don't know. They might know, but they're not talking about it. So we have the axial flip, we have the magnetic flip, and then we have what other Earth problems from the asteroid. I didn't talk about that yet. So the asteroid is called Apophis, and some NASA things are talking about it. I'm not sure their calculations can be as accurate as the Venusians. And the Venusians have the ability to look into the future a bit. And you're not allowed to do it on your own planet, but you can look into the other futures. And I mentioned that in the next part that we'll talk about here. So this asteroid is going to precipitate some geological changes, earthquakes, and it's a recalibration of the Earth's etheric magnetic lines. It's going to become stronger, more vibrant, more powerful, and it's going to lend to the humankind's evolution in spiritual consciousness. It's not about just survival on a physical plane in a body. It's about evolving our consciousness. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, it looks like we're entering an intense period of cosmic changes, both in the solar system, in this region of the galaxy, the hydrogen gas coming in, the asteroid, and yet none of the governments whose function would be to alert humanity have said anything. And I'm just wondering, number one, is this part of their depopulation and destruction agenda? And what we as awake and aware humans should be doing? Should we form an alternative humanity, awake and aware humanity, to the, I'll call them negative force that is ruling humanity and keeping it in the dark, and bringing all of these issues to the surface, not in, as you say, a fear mode, but in the mode of breakdown, breakthrough. It looks like we're going to a breakdown, but that's really a breakthrough mode. But there's going to have to be a change here on Earth. And what role do we, the awakened, aware humans, have? That's where my mind goes first.
Well, the Venusians would say the change starts with the individual. And I'll have to say that the government, 99% of them aren't aware of it. They're bureaucrats, they're policemen, they're military, they're very involved in their wheelhouse. At the highest level of science, these guys are got very high paying jobs. You know, they got 37 spaceships, they're flying in outer space. And, you know, there's so much the off planet people on Mars and all that stuff. That's kind of like beyond my pay grade. We know what's happening, but exactly what's happening and how it's happening and how depth it is. I understand that all of the secret space program generals are dying. There's a couple Air Force guys that have been lifted up and they're being warned. And if they're going to be violating the new rules, because these ancient agreements of how the extra dimensionals interact with the third dimension have been agreed to be changed by the various galaxies. The artificial intelligence that they use is being severely curtailed in terms of using it against third dimensional races for gangland type activity. And this is being cleaned up. These beings are getting help in clearing their own AI, and throughout at least the Andromeda and this galaxy, from what I've heard. And I would not begin to know that for sure. So I'm speculating on other information from other contactees that I believe are giving cogent and good intelligence. And we're all having a piece of the puzzle that's coming forward here. So I'm going to say that your idea of creating an alternative humanity, I think creating an alternative relationship to God and the connection to your source of truth within yourself, and to use that to expand passion, compassion. Now, as the systems break down, I'll go further into that. But before they do that, I want to show, okay, this is the suspicious observer again. I think this is it. Yeah. So you want to check this out. Suspicious observers, and I won't go into their stuff, but they've got a lot of stuff, and they're talking about the solar flare that's being ignored. They're, I won't say prepper, but they're very positive, very intelligent, and look like a good group of people. So I'm going to go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to go to my web page here. So this is I just want to show you. First, I'll show you this one. Okay, I'll show you. This is the symmetry of the rose of Venus. And this is, I talk about the garden. You can read the article, but it's more, click this link here. And this is the dance of Venus in relationship to the Earth. And so you see Venus and the Earth. And you're going to see the orbit. This is the Earth and the Sun. The Sun's in the middle, and there's Venus and the Earth, and it shows a relationship, how we're moving, and it creates a beautiful symmetry and a pattern, showing God's thing. And I actually thought I had I'll put a different image there of this one, and I actually have it. It's on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to change the image because this is a different one. And I call this Ponder the Mind of God. And so this is, so you get a real perspective. This is the image is incorrect. And of course I didn't put the link there yet, but I'm going to show you in my favorites where that is. Here it is. This is a heliacal model of the solar system and how we're actually moving through space. So what that perspective shows you is we're moving like this. We're going up. The whole solar system is kind of doing a thing like this. It's going up and it's going down. There's so many movements. And when you look at that, we're kind of like the wingman moving along from a perspective on the side of the entire solar system. So when you imagine, we're far out there, I don't imagine there's other things in between. I'm not sure what, but our close system would be 4.5 light years away. And I think a light year is 5 billion or something. It's crazy distance. Imagine when we think of all the life and all the beings on just our solar system, if we could see the entire quadrant of the galaxy and look and see that, you really get a perspective of how small we are and all of the things that we think are so important, right? We have our feelings of emotional, our day-to-day life and the things we worry about. There's so much grandeur in God's creation, so much symmetry, so much perfection, so much balance that we have to know and have faith that no matter what takes place, God's divine hand is here. So Alfred, I want to say that what's happening in terms of this grand change is God's divine hand allowing us to incrementally, through a series of cataclysms. Now, as I had mentioned, Louis said that the coming time here is moving into what we call the next year is a year of revelation and the concretization of our thoughts, right? So what we think and what we do actually creates our reality. Now, with the removal of these dark demons down to maybe 5%, the very heavy duty, powerful ones off world, we're reaching to a position now of freedom and sovereignty, whether we know it or not. Certain very advanced technologies and systems have been removed through the Office of the Ground Command, the Guardian, Kimberly Gogan, in concert with her, working with the various multiple galactic higher dimensionals that are enforcing the universal law on the lower planes here. So what we're seeing here now is a huge change in the freedom, but we don't know it. We haven't got the memo that we're free. We've always been free, but we've always resisted the ability to utilize our consciousness. People are going to find they're going to be less triggered. People are going to find that there's no more, there's not much impedance and resistance from the people around them. The triggering and the technology that inflames people. Much of the technology that's hidden to us, the ALF and these different frequency activations that have been placed to keep mankind in slavery and to disrupt our connection to our higher self, are being removed and vaporized through what Cobra calls Mohishnar technology, but they're disruptor beams that are vaporizing. The Venusians are not at all involved in that. They're more involved in smaller, although they have engaged the Saurians in the past when they were more alone here. because we're on the edge of the galaxy and there was really nothing here. And now that we've got the nuclear power and the bad guys have been around, there's been a lot more focus on the Earth. And more recently, as the Alex Collier said when they came in 1995, he said they were in the future, we're looking back at tyranny, and they came back to the past here. So it's hard for us to conceive that many of them have come from the future into our time frame and are coordinating activities. They all have different views on how to deal with it. They have to go through the local hierarchy, their local confederation of light, of which Venus is the primary influence on the physical plane. And the Queen of Venus also represents that entire galactic confederation in their protocols and relationships with how these extra dimensionals. And I'm sure there's some sort of a democracy that if the higher dimensionals want to do something, if Venusians are not really on board, they probably have to accept certain activities of what's taking place. So that's above my pay grade, but I can just assure you that God has a divine plan and it's moving forward. And all those people who are in denial are going to soon find out. The ETs are showing up in mass. Yes, the government has blue beam and they have some stuff. A tremendous amount of extraterrestrial activity is going to take place. So next year is a year of revelation. Many people are going to wake up to the lies of the narrative. They're unwinding the COVID now because there's so much evidence coming out. So far people haven't ripped them from their homes and burned them at the stake, but I'm going to read some more stuff from them now, from my messages from Valiant Thor, and go on to the next part. So this asteroid coming between us, they did say, is going to cause, as they said here, physical conditions will continue to deteriorate with an intensity of earthquake and significantly changing weather patterns. So we have a million people homeless, a million people. That's, 7 million in the greater LA area are homeless in Pakistan. That is a huge number, and it's a tremendous amount of difficulty and suffering. But my web developer, who lives 10 miles away from that, said people are coming together and there's a lot of help. So mankind is surviving this together. So they did say here, this is what they said. When I asked about, I was telling them, look, Dr. Frank Strange has said that everything's going to be good and rosy. And here you're talking about the deterioration of the planet. And, people may have problems with this, but, and I don't even know if I'm one of them, so I'm not claiming to be anything special, but this is basically for star seeds and a lot of people who have timed their service on the earth to end during this, in the next year, this incarnation or the next one or two. This was slated as a time as the great change and the moving of the new earth. All of these solar flares and the hydrogen cloud obviously has been known. It's probably a cycle. So a lot of these things are timed during this. So here's what Alon says. During these years of transition, many of the elect ones will physically be lifted off the earth for new lives in other celestial locations, i.e. planets, planetoids, moons, asteroid bases, or space platforms within our solar system. They will return to Earth as needed in the capacity of teachers and builders in the new world. So for me, when I look at that, a lot of people are saying, oh, the fifth dimension is coming. I mean, some people may be going back to their home worlds in the fifth dimension. Some people may be experiencing that, but they're pretty clear here that certain people will be lifted off. This has been talked about by Tuella and the Ashtar Command, that myth and story that a lot of people are don't believe. The government has taken over a lot of channels and given false information and stuff that maybe not be true. But my messages, by the way, folks, are hand delivered from a friend of mine. So I wanted to check in with you here, Alfred, and if I could, Alfred, are you there?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I mean, we
I know you had
are,
close, so I
we are
wasn't.
sitting
You're just,
here on bated breath because this is extraordinary information that
yeah,
is coming through, but I want to take this moment because we're about an hour into the information and what we said at the outset, that it's important to support your work. Also to
thank you.
support it from a material point of view. And so could you share with the audience and the listeners how they can support it from a material point of view?
Right. I really appreciate that. And what I'm going to share here is, and I don't ask for handouts, but I find myself with a car breakdown and a computer and a little hospital thing. I'm in a thing. So I'm offering some really positive discounts here on my website here. Let me get to my dashboard. I'm just going to pull it up real quick and just show you. I'm going to have this by the time this video is released by you, but I'm going to share this information here. Am I sharing the screen yet? I forget.
No, not as yet. We're
Okay.
seeing you.
Right. So now I'm going to show you I just made this new discounts. I'm offering a lot of stuff at cost or below cost here. So again, I don't ask for handouts. I do have donations. Some people have helped out, but I'm offering incredible discounts. This is $1,000 off. Basically, it's at cost. Some of it is below cost. I'm not covering my expense to make it. Stuff like this.
Basically, what we're seeing here is your the inside of your website. What we should see is the actual post.
Right. I can show that now, but of course,
there we go.
But so yeah, so we're going here. So I'm just
here we go. Oh, okay.
So I want to just show here. So this is a great device, and there's a video that I'm going to be putting up here. But
great.
This device is actually, you know, I'm going to show you guys right behind me here. This is an ion shower that connects to a Tesla coil, and it has a bunch of crystals in it. Does a thing, and this is another device that I make. It's very beautiful, and this device over here does ELF waves, and we come over to this one here. This is a scalar wave device that the Pleiadians gave us. It has crystals, and this also connects to a Tesla coil. So I'm offering some incredible, like $1,000 off on it. So basically, I'm just trying to get some funds. And then the final one, that's a major one, are these two jewelry pieces. And I have this is what I do when for some people who are familiar with muscle testing. And you can check these out. And I don't want to make this too long-winded, but I'm very grateful for people who'd like to support my work. I generally give most of the information away for free. Of course, books and everything costs money, and conferences, which, by the way, I'm going to be doing a conference next June in Mount Shasta is going to be the one. And I'm working on the lineup right now. So I'm going to offer some extreme discounts on that as well, just to get some to help support that event. But what I do with this device, for those of you who are aware of muscle testing, we muscle test your arms, and you go like this, and we're testing the basic energy, and you test strong. Then I have you open up this stinky, nasty airplane glue. You breathe it. I test you, and you go weak as a kitten. You can't hold your arm up. Then you put on this device or this device, and you muscle test breathing glue, and you test strong. And I challenge any other energy necklace to do that. And there's one guy who had one that was almost as strong. But this is a Pleiadian device. It's got 144 pyramids in a concentric spiral, and this is called the solar Celtic cross. And then we have a gemstone. This is particularly amethyst. This is silver with a gold plating. And then we have another one, which is an Andromedan holographic projector. This has two, and this is actually this is an amethyst too, and silver with rhodium plating. So these are very powerful devices, and all the information is on these links here in the discount that I offer there. So for those who would like to, help support me, I would appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
sure. And we will put the links in the description also,
yeah.
so that people can reach those links easily.
Right. Was I sharing screen? I guess maybe I didn't. Let me.
Yeah, go ahead and share screen.
Yeah, I guess I want to share. Yeah, this is the ion shower that I was sharing. I don't know if I shared that. And then I did share. You did see the post of this. So this is the post that you can see the links, and he'll have a link to this, folks, if you're interested. And you can check out my website at thepromiserevealed.net. And then I'm gonna go back to you come down to the bottom here. You want to come down here to my YouTube. My Brighteon has more politically sensitive material, but this YouTube has a lot of information, and you're going to see. I link Alfred's videos up here. Actually, I can't. You don't have YouTube. They shut you down, right?
Well, what they did is they gave me what I call an unlawful second strike this past week, which they took down a video which was a year and a half old out of the blue. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, they're just you're pretty prolific in your and fearless in your calling out of the bad guys. But I do have a link to Alfred's interview right here. So if you want to see our last interview, you can go there. Of course, Alfred's YouTube channel and everything. So that's important. So we've talked about the solar flare. We've talked about the magnetic flip, the natural axial flip. And we'll get into the evacuation next time when we talk about how the Venusians aided a parallel Earth in the 50s and 60s, and then maybe even do one more on the global restoration plan. But I think we've laid a good framework for people to ponder. This is a natural event. I'm not guessing doom or gloom. I'm saying that, like, an earthquake happens at any time. We're not prepared, but we can know that depending on where we're living in 2009, there are going to be increased geological changes caused by natural phenomenon. They may have already bumped it a little bit, so it's not going to be hitting the moon or the earth. I don't know if there's little chunks going with it or maybe some impact or something, but I can say that I don't think that I know for a fact the earth is not going to be destroyed. But if you look in the grand scheme of things, would we be able to change our society system? Would people put down the gas guzzling cars or stop the chains of poison of our food unless we had to rebuild anew? I think this may be a positive change, that we'll be forced to completely alter our food to growing locally. Perhaps Kim Gogan can initiate huge food bank programs, create giant consortiums of technocratic experts to look at water problems. Water is a huge thing to consider in terms of drought and the increased heat and the microcystis in the lakes and various things that may cascade from this intense heat. And I'm not talking about a government control, because when this gets to a certain level in certain areas, I don't think the government's communication, the government's ability, I think most people are going to be a little bit more in survival mode. And I'm hoping that we can prepare for these changes and establish an infrastructure first within our consciousness and our hearts to have compassion, love, and patience, and to allow leadership to come forward without being attacked, to create new communities. I think it's going to have to take place with the individual consortiums of a free association, maybe several millionaires buying property, and the rest of the people who are in the community can support the change and be part of the new ideas, the teachers, the educators, the people to create centers of association. And we look in Italy, in the Italian German Alps there, Damen here is doing a pretty powerful connection. And they are an external retreat of the Great White Brotherhood. And they are working with that. It's a whole new way of living and associating. It can be on, off the grid, whatever. It's just something big is coming, and it's up to us to do it. It's going to be wonderful. I don't know if I'm going to live to see it all, but
Right, right. Now, I just have some questions. Would it be okay to ask you that?
yeah, let's do it.
Great, okay. In terms of timing, and I know that time is a relative thing because it's elastic. The more intention there is, intention can affect time. But could you give us some rough estimate of this period of Earth changes? What are we talking about for initiation and duration, even for the evacuations and the coming backs? And this is a pretty amazing movie that you described.
We've seen a lot of movies that are describing this and pretending this in various ways of leaving the earth and getting it, so many movies about, there's an ancient movie in '79 that talked about this with Martin Landau and Barbara Baines on where there's they got a movie Moonfall, and it's all Hollywooded up, but we're getting Deep Impact and all these things in 2012, and are kind of was a good one to let us know that as it's not going to be maybe an ice thing like that, but it's letting you know that things are going to change. Mankind will survive. We're resourceful. And it's going to be drastic in certain areas. Now, as far as times of Venusians, the only thing we could say is pretty much we know when the sun is going to rise and move and things are moving. And the Venusians, with their technology, talk about an asteroid. Now, there's a psychic named Magenta Pixie. She's cute. And I think it was several days after I announced this on a thing. I don't know if she saw this, probably not, but she said she tuned into an asteroid and she goes, I'm so hot. I'm bringing changes. It was kind of like a psychic channeling, but that's what she came up with. And I'm not sure the level. So that was a psychic, possibly a telepathic communication to her that maybe got interpreted that way. But again, mine are hand-delivered messages with actual written responses, so there's no room for error. I'm literally a postman delivering a message. I'm not to worry about what people say. Everyone goes, oh, you're so negative. And I go, it's like a wave. It's someone on the beach. I'm shouting number 2, it's coming. I can tell you that an increase in earthquakes are going to come in 7 years. How bad? Where? When, why, how, I know the how. It's the proximity of an asteroid between the Earth and the moon. I imagine the moon's going to be shaken up. Is it come closer to the moon? Does it come closer to the Earth? I don't know. I think, they may slightly direct it to cause less damage, I would think. But if they're going to do anything, but they're not going to push the thing off and, into free space. I mean, that could, cause some devastation somewhere else. So they're very, very careful in not interfering with natural law. Now, the asteroid itself was due to a mankind's destruction of a super Earth, the size of Jupiter or larger, that now is the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, and the smaller particles are what we call the Oort cloud. So I know that's coming. That's a time zone. Lifting people off, I have no clue when that is.
No
Or
clue. Now,
yeah.
let me ask you just a kind of a hypothetical observation. If we're talking about 7 years, this is when this period may commence. We're now toward the end of 2022. So in 7 years, we're starting with 2030. 2023 plus, right, 2029, but we're at the end of 2022, so 2023 plus 7 is 2030. And that's where, if we look at the dark force, the deep state, they talk about UN Plan 2021-2030. And since they look at their plans, they said, let's take this opportunity to destroy humanity. You see, we're coming at the other end and saying, let's take this opportunity to transform humanity. Yeah, so we're working for the light, they're working for the darkness. Could you comment on what I just said? Do you think that the 2030 date, do you think that the dark force may have looked at 2030? Do you think it's a coincidence? Or do you think that they have been working the dark force as well?
I think the higher level dark force, it had the high technology and the interdimensional technology. And we'll get into this in the fourth program after we go into time travel and
good.
But that's Kim Gogan, and that girl is dropping bombs.
Yeah.
I got it $4.99. I don't know, it's $7.99 now. It's well worth it to listen to her updates. She is talking about the meetings, and she has drawn a line in the sand. They keep trying to get money, Wano Savin and Kushner and the whole Trump thing. She maintains Trump is dead, that they're keeping that alive to get money, and that they're running a whole dog and pony show. Now, the Sara Jasara is absolutely an original revelation from a positive extraterrestrial group called, there's a being named Hatan, and I saw some of the photos of a planet that's named after him. And he has as his residence a beautiful island out there. But he was working through a woman named Doris Ecker, and they had something called the Phoenix Journals. And on my website, I could probably pull it up next time, but the Phoenix Journals detail the new financial system. I was under, at that time, it was called the Mana Trust. And mana was a substance that was laid by the Venusian angels as they led the people out of Israel. They would come down in the morning, they call it angel hair, and they could pick it up. It was like a light food that would help the people purify their bodies and everything. And they lived on that for 10 years.
Yeah. Now, this is just out of the blue, but I just want to ask you, since we're looking forward to this third and fourth program. Do you think there's any possibility after the fourth program that in a panel you could reach out and have you and Kim Gogan come on in a panel? Do you think that that's possible?
She's really busy. I reached out to her, and I'm going to be posting more information specifically about her stuff. I'm trying to get through this a little financial difficulty. I put like I was silent for 70 days, and before that 60 days was pretty much all about my conference and promoting that. So I produced a lot of content and things for people to start looking and pondering. And so I'm going to I'm hoping to I may be offering my massages again. I haven't done for many years, but I'm trying to I'm focused on this, but then I'm going to produce more information about Kim Gogan, and I'm going to be sharing snippets of her channel and what she says. So to answer the question as far as the timelines, I don't know about evacuation time. I don't know about, um, I do know that Asteroid and something similar is going to cause some upheaval in 2029 and 2031.
Right,
Will initiate some changes, but again, if mankind is awakened to the solar flares or maybe exoduses, if these bring down electricity or some type of geomagnetic change, not California breaking off in the ocean at once, like Atlantis, it was a little here, a little there. It was over a long period of time. There may be some sloshing, some water in the basin, or there's going to be some
right.
geological changes. There
Changes.
always are. So we'll start rethinking and acting more locally. One of the
Right,
things that the cabal in the future, the cabal's plans are kaput right now. They're already kaput. They do
right.
not have money. They are lying when they say they have a digital currency and the control of the WEF. Kim Gogan is no way in hell, and
Yeah,
there's not even a hell anymore. They can't contact Lucifer. They're trying to
yeah,
contact the supreme race, of which the parents and the elite families are biologically related. But these elite families who've been doing this have been warned. And as they gather their groups to do their mantrams and sacrifice children, and believe me, there's history of it in the Bible, and drink their adrenochrome, they are being vaporized.
right,
8,000 people have died in the last month attempting to violate their doomsday plan. And you're right.
right.
Kim Gogan actually revealed the names of the generals in these deep state dragon societies that, everyone thinks is good. But at the highest levels, these are criminals who believe they have a right to rule and create slaves out of people and depopulate the planet. It's not going to happen. Any depopulation, which is unfortunate, is going to come through natural. So I think the cabal will be in their bunkers by that time, and
Right.
I think the bureaucrats, the Newsoms, the Pelosi's not human. She's definitely in stasis, and there's a demon inside her, and I
Right.
don't know how long she's going to run that show. So depending on the people's will, and another question I asked them, I said, you know, um, I said, is it possible? I said, no one in enforcement, no one in the police, no one in the FBI, no one in the CIA, no one in the military has the balls to step up and arrest the people in positions of power. Oh, we're waiting. Stop waiting and do your duty that you were sworn to do, and take over the emergency broadcast system. And how can that be unified? I don't know. Would that create more chaos? Maybe. Maybe that's an advice of the Galactics. But I know that they're working very hard behind the scenes, some aspects of the military, but that they may be waiting for a certain time to do that. But at this point, millions of people are dying and starving, and they're running Project Doom. So at this point, because they can't create World War III, they don't have the money,
Right.
and the fact that Kim Gogan is not going to release the money until it can be assured that they can't steal it. But Nasara and Jasara and the Mount of Trust has been changed to the KMS system, and it's under the purview of one person who is deemed humans representative. It can't even be a council. Everyone's corrupt. She wants out of that position. And as more people step into positions of responsibility and can help change these chains of poison, the supply chains, to release the patents and the technologies that you talked about in your chronography of the
Yeah.
time, They haven't had the ability to use Project Looking Glass since 1995. They're running on old beliefs and programs. That's blocked to them now. So they're running on a program. They don't even have the manual because the demons inside the earth have been vaporized. All that's left now are a few elite families who are going, we better not do that. Everyone else is dying. Their houses are gone. There's no one there. The underground computer systems around the globe and universities and churches and the stones of control and manipulation of humanity using high technology, the satellites, the femtech, the frequencies that they're generating. Like Rife can make you healthy. They've been generating frequencies to make you sick, to make you do this. And every time she does it, goes, well, people were reporting sickness. We get in, we locate the signal, we got it down, and we put the counter frequencies to make people healthy, and then we're doing that. And this is happening with higher dimensional called enforcers. These are beings that have been around for millions or hundreds of millions of beings. They're not physical. They're multidimensional intelligences that are working. Now, Dr. Frank Strange has said there's 4 types of angels: the guardian, the ministering, and the guiding, guarding, ministering, and the reaper angels. So these are the beings that are removing them. Omnek said they're going to have a new financial system, and that's going to happen. And people go, well, we don't see it. And what if the bad guys don't want to do it? And I think I mentioned this last one. I love it. And her little North Carolina drawl, she goes, they'll be annihilated. So that's showing that there is justice, divine justice, and God is very patient and very kind. And eventually that justice is ministered by the soul that did the bad deed. They're brought before a Saturn tribunal. They're held in stasis and chains with very high dimensional beings, and they're judged for they're shown their actions and how they violate universal law. And they're shown, you can either do this, and they show them 1 billion years of suffering, or you can choose to vaporize your own consciousness. And they realize the suffering that they caused would be caused on them, and they choose to commit soul suicide, which means their entire soul has gone back to source. Nothing's destroyed. It's
that's amazing.
Yeah,
just amazing. Well, we've been here for about 90 minutes, and we're on for Monday,
the 26th.
September 26th at noon. Robert Potter, this is a profound education and transformation of people's agenda. This program will be broadcast and distributed widely, and is helping elevate people's consciousness and transforming the leading edge for what is coming. So thank you so much for your work, and thank you for allowing people to come in and to support your vision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you again. And my website, thepromisrevealed.net, is going to be in the links there. But I want you, again, folks, I want to say to you, just understand these are natural occurring phenomenon. We must go within our hearts, and we must prepare ourselves with the armor of God and faith. And next year is the year of revelation. A lot of people, you light workers, are not going to have so much resistance. There will be resistance, but people are going to wake up. A lot of truth will be revealed. And I think mainstream is going to be finding some new sources, possibly, I'm guessing. I don't know this. This is not everything in the future I'm speculating on, other than that we're in a hydrogen cloud, and there's going to be asteroids causing earth changes. Those are, I'll take that to the bank, and in 7 years, you can say, that guy was right. I may say, I may be underneath an earthquake and go, oh my God, I was right. And then I die. So it's not about fear, because the soul goes on forever. But I want people to use this as a moment to pause and reflect on the fragile nature of human consciousness, of our systems, and how delicate we are. And take a look at your food chain, your sources of water, and imagine if some of these things stopped, are we prepared for that? I think we're prepared. I think the human being is a good, open, loving person. And I think without these systems of control, I think the cream is going to rise to the top and create a protective layer, and we will come out of this with something new. So I want to say, focus on the victory of the light, be aware of the problems, don't obsess on them, but be aware and to make changes and find associations. And don't be afraid of change, and embrace the new earth and be part of its rebuilding. Okay, thank you.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Albert.